People used to imagine the AI future like a locked room. A few giant companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, xAI, NVIDIA, a few giant models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok behind subscriptions, API keys, rate limits, enterprise contracts, and closed weights. The machine was terrifying, but at least it looked contained. It lived behind glass. Then the open model flood started. DeepSeek, Qwen, GLM, Kimi, Llama, Nemotron, open weights, local inference, fine-tuning, distillation, agents, Llama, Hugging Face, CUDA, OpenAI-compatible APIs. Suddenly, AI was not just something you subscribed to, it was something you could download, copy, host, modify, and aim at work. That is the new fear. Not one superintelligence, a million cheap LLMs, and now they are loose. The old AI moat was supposed to be access. You needed the model, you needed the API, you needed the money, you needed the data center, you needed permission. That made the threat feel centralized. Scary, yes, but legible. Then models started leaking out of the vault as weights, checkpoints, runtimes, wrappers, local tools, hosted endpoints, and agent frameworks. Not all of it was the same. Some models were open source, some were open weight. Some were simply cheap and easy to access. But to the labor market, the distinction matters less than the effect. The machine stopped being scarce. And once intelligence stops being scarce, the moat starts looking fake. This is why the last year felt different. It was not just ChatGPT anymore, it was DeepSeek R1 punching through the news cycle. It was Qwen becoming a serious open model family. It was GLM and Kimi pushing Chinese open models into the global AI stack. It was Llama normalizing the idea that powerful models could exist outside one closed API. It was Grok opening weights. It was NVIDIA building Nemotron into the agentic AI world. And once these models hit Hugging Face, Llama, cloud hosts, coding tools, local machines, and agent frameworks, the old moats started leaking from every side. Not because every model was the best, because enough of them were good enough. That is the part people are not ready for. You do not need the best model in the world to change the price of work. You need a model cheap enough to spread. This is why open models change the story. Not because DeepSeek, Qwen, GLM, Kimi, Llama, Grok, or Nemotron are always the best model in the world. That is the wrong standard. The labor market does not wait for perfect. It waits for cheap enough, good enough, available enough. Can the LLM write the first draft? Can it answer the customer? Can it summarize the call? Can it generate the Python? Can it clean the spreadsheet? Can it draft the marketing email? Can it sit inside VS Code? Can it run through Llama? Can it live on a local workstation? Can it be called through an OpenAI-compatible API for pennies? If the answer is yes, the moat is already leaking. You do not need one perfect superintelligence to disrupt work. You need a million cheap, almost good enough models. That is commoditization. So Wojak wakes up in a different world. At first he thought AI was above him, something used by elite labs, something inside OpenAI, something inside Anthropic, something inside Google, something controlled by executives, subscriptions, and enterprise contracts. But now it is everywhere. His boss has ChatGPT, his competitor has Claude, the offshore vendor has DeepSeek, the freelancer has Qwen, the coding shop has GLM, the startup has Kimi, the local hacker has Llama in Llama. The GPU guy has Nemotron running on NVIDIA hardware. The small company that used to need 10 people now has 5 agents and 1 tired manager. Closed AI threatened him from above, OpenAI attacks from every direction, and every market starts asking the same question. Why does this still cost so much? This is where the pain starts. Not when AI becomes conscious, not when ChatGPT turns into Skynet, not when an LLM becomes magical. The pain starts when ordinary skilled work gets cheaper. Writing, coding, translation, customer support, research analysis, Excel cleanup, Python scripts, CAD documentation, sales emails, SEO descriptions, legal style first drafts, training documents. The skill does not vanish, the price changes. And when a skill gets repriced, everyone pretends nothing happened. You still have the title, you still have the deadline, you still have the Teams meeting. But now the baseline has moved. Your output is easier to compare, easier to speed up, easier to benchmark, easier to underbid, easier to squeeze. The skill survives, the price does not. So, if this sounds too dark, answer the simple question: which moat is still real? The model, the API, the GPU, the data, the workflow, the labor market? Because every year, one of those walls gets thinner, the model gets copied, the API gets imitated, the workflow gets cloned, the agent gets packaged, the local runtime gets easier, the cost drops, and the expectation rises. That is why cheap is scarier than smart. Smart impresses people. Cheap changes behavior, cheap changes management, cheap changes what clients think is fair, cheap changes what one worker is expected to produce. And once intelligence gets cheap enough, it stops feeling like a tool. It starts feeling like pressure. That is the real horror of commoditized intelligence. It does not arrive as one dramatic event. It arrives as 1,000 small adjustments. A smaller team, a tighter deadline, a lower rate, a cheaper contractor, a new AI agent, a new expectation that you should be doing more because the machine is helping now. Nobody has to announce that the labor market changed. It just changes, quietly, then all at once. And Wojak realizes the vault was never the real danger. The vault was almost comforting. At least the monster had an address. Now the model is in the laptop, in the browser, in the coding tool, in the call center, in the startup, in the company that wants his job done cheaper by Friday. So no, the nightmare is not one superintelligence. It is not one company owning the future. The real nightmare is a million cheap ones, good enough to automate the boring part, good enough to lower the price, good enough to raise expectations, good enough to make skill less scarce. And now they are loose. That is the open model era of labor, not the end of work, something stranger, work after intelligence stops being rare, not when one company owns the model. When everyone does, DeepSeek did not just break the AI moat. It showed people the moat was already leaking. The nightmare is not one superintelligence, it is a million cheap ones, and now they are loose.